What's up, guys? Welcome to the Win Daily Week 8 main slate preview. We're going to be breaking down everything DraftKings related for Week 8. I'll be giving some of my best plays for the upcoming slate. So let's dive into it. So first, starting with the Detroit Lions quarterback, Matthew Stafford. Matthew Stafford at 6,100 is going to smash in Week 8. The Giants defense has been terrible on the road this year. They're allowing an average yards per attempt for quarterbacks to 9.8, which is second highest in the NFL. With the loss of Kerryon Johnson, the Lions are going to lean on the pass. They're already averaging 36.3 pass attempts per game at 7.9 yards per attempt, and the Lions are averaging 3 passing touchdowns per game at home this season. So a stack that you're going to want, either whether it's in a GPP or in a tournament lineup, is going to be Matthew Stafford and Kenny Golladay. He is definitely going to bounce back after Marvin Jones basically blew up last week. So I really like Golladay in this spot along with Matthew Stafford. And then I think that you can also add in GPPs. You can add in a guy like Ty Johnson at 4,900, who looks to be the main carrier back. Ty Johnson, I'm a little hesitant in cash games just because I think that you can pay up at running back, across the board. I think that there's enough value at the receiver position where you don't need to pay up at receiver, which I do not think really works that well. Paying up for receiver usually does not pay off. You want to pay up for running back, so I'd rather use my salary there instead of Ty Johnson. But I do like him in a tournament stack where you have a lot of exposure to the Lions. And one of my sneaky plays of this week is Marvin Hall at $3,000. So receiver on the Lions. He has now hauled in a pass of at least 34 yards in 3 consecutive games. The last time Hall played the Giants, he scored. Hall is averaging 22.56 yards per catch in his career. He's a big, deep threat, so that's why I kind of like him as an interesting $3,000 punt play in a GPP lineup. As for the Giants, it's about Saquon Barkley. He's at 8,900, but I think he's worth every single penny. We have some injuries on the Detroit Lions. They just traded one of their strong safeties in Quandre Diggs, and he was a guy that was stopping running backs. He was really used heavily as a run stopper, and he's gone. So that's why I really like Saquon Barkley as a guy that you can play in both cash games and in GPPs. I'm not sure that because of the price tag, people are going to be paying down for the Alvin Kamara replacements in Latavius Murray and the Chase Edmonds as if he fills in for David Johnson, where those guys are fine. I just think I'd rather pay up for what more well-known quantities within the Saquon Barkleys, the Leonard Fournettes, and the Chris Carsons. Speaking of which, Chris Carson, and actually Saquon Barkley, again, the Lions have allowed the second most fantasy points to the running back position over the past 4 weeks. So again, I think Barkley is fine play. There's going to be a lot of points in this game, and I really prefer it more than like the Christian McCaffrey play. I just look at the Panthers and 49ers game. It's just a less likely game to shoot out. So that's really why I'm leaning towards Barkley in both cash games. McCaffrey obviously is a GPP play for sure because he'll be lower owned, but I think Saquon Barkley is definitely need to be in your cash build lineups. So like I said, I mentioned before, Chris Carson is kind of the next guy like in for cash games as well. He is a guy that is basically getting all of the touches on his offense, and he's playing against a absolutely putrid Atlanta Falcons defense. Chris Carson's only $7,000. So it makes too much sense. Carson's averaging 23 touches per game. It's too much. He hasn't really scored that many touchdowns, so he's an easy regression candidate for touchdowns. So that's why I like Chris Carson in this matchup as well. One other thing to note, as well as a defense. So I have always punted defense, but I found that, especially with this year, it's worked a little bit differently. So what I would recommend is always build a defense in your lineup. Don't just kind of throw it in as the last piece. Make sure you have a defense that's in there that you have some confidence in starting. And so from my perspective, I think that the Lions at 2,800 is actually one of the best values on the slate. You have them going up against Daniel Jones, who has basically been a turnover machine since basically becoming the starter in New York. If you look at on the road this season, the Giants have averaged 2.7 turnovers per game, and over the last 4 weeks, the Giants have allowed the second most fantasy points allowed to opposing defenses. So that's why I threw the Lions defense in there as well. So moving on, again, getting into some more GPP plays or just some one-off guys that you can add to your lineups. I'm looking at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I think that this game has another potential to be kind of like a sneaky shootout. I was talking about Ryan Tannehill last week. I really liked him in that matchup against the Chargers, and he scored 23.18 DraftKings points. And the matchup is really good for Ryan Tannehill at 5,100. So I think Tannehill is someone you want to stack in GPPs with Ryan Tannehill. Corey Davis at 4,400. I think that Corey Davis is going to be really chalky, but at his price, I don't really know if I care. I think I'm going to eat the chalk. And the same thing goes with A.J. Brown at 4,100. A.J. Brown is coming off a career-high 8 targets, and Corey Davis has at least had, when he's had 5 receptions this season, he has scored at least 20 DraftKings points. So you want to keep those guys in mind. You can switch them out. I think they could both be played in cash, both be played in GPPs. For this build here, I'm just kind of throwing in Corey Davis as a placeholder just as we look through this build. So going ahead, so we're kind of spending up at running back position. So the last running back I really want to highlight again here is Leonard Fournette. So Leonard Fournette was the chalky receiver or the running back last week, but he's going to probably smash even more this week. His price has gone up to 7,800, but he's going to find the end zone this week. I'm almost sure of it. No team has allowed more rushing touchdowns this season than the New York Jets. So over the past 4 weeks, running backs are averaging 7.5 red zone touches per game against the New York Jets. Leonard Fournette is averaging 24.5 touches per game. So, I mean, it's just too many touches. You have 23 touches for Carson, 24.5 for Leonard Fournette, 20-plus touches for Barkley. This is what you want for your cash game running backs, is guys that are just getting tons of touches in pretty good game environment. So I like this one here for sure. I don't think the Jets defense is going to be able to stop them. CJ Mosley is out once again. So Fournette, again, second in the NFL in red zone carries. I just think he's a stone cold lock. So this gets us down into we're running out of salary. We only have 3,300 left for each position. So this is where we need to dive deep into some of our wide receiver plays. So another guy I want to really highlight here is Deshaun Hamilton on the Denver Broncos. So Deshaun Hamilton, obviously, Emmanuel Sanders is gone. He has been traded to the San Francisco 49ers, creating a spot for Deshaun Hamilton to have a larger role on the offense. You look at Deshaun here at 3,300. He's very cheap, and he's going to probably get some targets in this game. If you look at the last 4 games of last season, when Sanders left the game or left for an injury, he was no longer in the lineup. Sanders was averaging 6.25 receptions, 9.5 targets, 45.5 receiving yards. He's a low-priced receiver that I think you can have some confidence playing in your lineups. I think I prefer him more in cash games. I'm not sure his upside is super, super high, whereas I think that there's some other guys you can get more higher upside from, who I'll be talking about sooner. But I think that Deshaun Hamilton is definitely a really good play in a cash game lineup that you need to save salary at 3,300. The matchup's also really good. Colts over the last 4 weeks have allowed the 5th most fantasy points to the wide receiver position. So that's really why I like Deshaun Hamilton there. So again, I already talked about Corey Davis and A.J. Brown. Those guys are both definitely in play, I think, in both cash games and in GPPs. They're just really cheap, and they can both make plays. I think A.J. Brown's probably the better GPP play. I think that he just has a better chance to ball out, and he's lower priced, and Corey Davis caught the touchdown, so Davis will probably have the higher ownership. But the guy that I'm talking about, and unfortunately I can't bring him up on our lineup build here, is Ted Ginn Jr. So it is a hashtag revenge game for Ted Ginn against the Arizona Cardinals. Yes, it seems so bizarre to think that he had played for the Arizona Cardinals at some point in his career, but he did, and he's on the New Orleans Saints. And I think that Ted Ginn, the key here is play Ted Ginn if Drew Brees plays. Ted Ginn's back at the Dome, where he's always played really, really well this year. And I think that Kyler Murray and the Cardinals can put up a little bit more than most people are giving them credit for. So Ted Ginn is, I think, a really interesting punt play at a GPP. He has 11 targets over the last 2 games. And in the Dome, that's just where he's always blown up. So especially if Drew Brees plays, I think that you need to get some exposure to Ted Ginn in your GPP lineup. So now, as we kind of round out this lineup here, we're looking at a tight end position. So we're trying to fill out the tight end. And the 2 tight ends that opened up this week, really earlier today actually, are Cameron Brate and Cameron Brate and Jonnu Smith from the Titans and the Buccaneers. So those guys are both coming in at under 2,800 for Jonnu Smith and coming in at 2,700 for Cameron Brate. So you can I actually am a big fan of getting Cameron Brate in there because I think that the matchup is good on paper. The Titans are not a good team against tight ends. That's why OJ Howard was kind of getting some interest, but obviously he's not going to play in this game. So Cameron Brate, I think you can lock in here. And so look, so we have $600 left over, so we can do a couple things. We can move around a little bit. We can look at salary. We can look at defenses to move up from. Just kind of looking at this lineup. I think I could move up. Could I move up at running back? Could I do something like this, something like that? But yeah, so there are a couple different options here that you guys can go with. We can always try to get to a better defense. The Titans defense against the Buccaneers, that could be an interesting play here as well. That's something that could be really interesting. But we'll leave this here for now, just kind of as a sample build to kind of get you guys thinking about what you're playing. And lastly as well, I will mention that I do really like the Buccaneers as plays in this game. Adoree Jackson is out, the cornerback for the Tennessee Titans. So I think that there's a large leverage play that you can get from some of these Bucs receivers that are higher priced up. Chris Godwin at 7,100 and Mike Evans at 6,600. I do think that they're both in play because I think that the Titans have a perceived, it's a really tough matchup. I don't think it's that hard on paper. Again, like I said, Adoree Jackson's out in this matchup, so I do think that those Tampa Bay Buccaneers can actually produce in this lineup here. So as we kind of look through the lineup again, kind of wrapping things up, we have Stafford in a quarterback, Barkley, Carson, Kenny Golladay at receiver, Corey Davis, Deshaun Hamilton, Cameron Brate, Leonard Fournette, and the Lions defense. So I guess if we wanted to maybe swing rank something around, one thing I would consider is instead of Corey Davis, play a guy like DK Metcalf at 5,000. We really want to just spend the rest of our money. I think that Metcalf is in another smash spot here in this matchup against the Atlanta Falcons, like I said. Interestingly enough about the Atlanta Falcons, they've given up a lot of big plays to the passing game, and especially also another guy to mention here is Kenny Stills. I really actually love Kenny Stills this week. He's at 4,700, so maybe we'll slot him in there. If you look at the Raiders defense, their Raiders defense has been terrible. It's basically, they've allowed the most passing plays of 20 yards or more this season, which 32 plays of those that have happened, and they rank 5th worst in the NFL in sacks on the quarterback. I think Deshaun Watson and Kenny Stills stack is going to be super popular. I would definitely recommend playing it this week for sure. But yep, so here's kind of a sample build for you guys. A lot of different options here. 3,100 defense. Can we get a better one? Not so much. I'm going to keep the Lions in there. So, we're leaving money on the table, but that's okay. That's one of the biggest things to take away as well. Don't be afraid to leave money on the table, guys. So, here's the main slate breakdown. Make sure you go check out the full article on windailysports.com, and we will have even more content for you guys there as well. So, thanks for watching, and make sure you guys go check out monkeyknifefight.com. The description for the referral is in the YouTube video description, so make sure you go check that out. You want to take the overs on Kenny Stills for sure, and you want to take the overs on anything related to Kenny Golladay. Those are going to hit because those guys are going to blow up this week. So thanks for watching.